Hey, this is Dave Pryor, and I am here in the Big Visible podcast booth at Agile 2014, and I'm very excited that Dean Leffingwell has been able to find time to come and sit down and talk about SAFe. So thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
So you are the creator of Scaled Agile Framework. Right?
Most of those words are mine. The ideas, however, that's a different matter.
All right. So before we get into why you're at the conference, for just in case anybody's not very familiar with SAFe yet, can you explain briefly what it is and why you put everything together?
Okay. So the challenge that we have is the same challenge as we've always had throughout my career, which is how to build really big systems effectively. Right. And over a decade or so ago, Agile kind of unlocked a new, what I like to think of as an expressive power at the team level. But it was designed for small teams, and it was implemented in small teams. And indeed, those that founded the methods made no claim that this was a massively scalable system.
Sure.
Well, I became enamored in about 2001 with the Agile methods, and I learned XP and Scrum. I actually kind of learned XP first, and thought this is a better way to do software. But I didn't spend my time with teams of 2 and 10 or 15 people. I was working with larger enterprises. That's kind of my background, and I like building big systems. I'm a systems engineer by training, actually aerospace background. So when I saw those methods, I wanted to bring that power to the larger enterprises because I have an empathy for working there, and I know what it's like to have a really big release and you kill yourself and you go home feeling bad. And I think these teams have created, the world's most spectacular systems, and they feel bad half the time. Well, I don't think that's fair.
Okay.
So my personal mission was to say, hey, there's a better model there than I was familiar with before. How could we scale that?
Right.
And the result from that is basically a series of integrated practices that takes a systems view. And it of course includes the teams, but it's beyond the teams. It includes the additional roles and additional aspects of the system, architecture and UX, and additional roles, people, maybe a release train engineer or product management authority, people that we know we need in the large enterprise to help steer that work. The net result is a published framework. We call it, it's free. It's freely revealed and publicly facing.
Okay.
Everything we learn, we pour into the framework. We modify it essentially every week.
Okay.
Our commitment is to have all that information be public knowledge. So we get ideas, we learn things primarily from companies that are successful. We see them, we understand the principles. The framework is based on lean and agile and systems thinking. That's the 3 basic knowledge pools. So when we see a pattern develop and we can relate it to the principles, we know it's not just a freaky pattern, that 2 companies were successful with that.
Okay.
So that knowledge base is free. It's called Scaled Agile Frameworks. It's scaledagileparamework.com. We released 3.0 just Monday.
Well, hold on. How long ago did you put out the first
in 2011, we put out the first version of SAFe.
Okay.
But that was based upon earlier works that I blogged about.
Okay.
So in my book Agile Software Requirements, which I started writing in 2009, finished in 2011, the first big picture appeared, but we didn't put the framework to publicly facing until 2011. So in 2014, now we're on version 3.
Right.
We have no shortage of ideas. We met with many customers today, and they're saying, hey, we would love just to see, an expression of a Kanban system at the program level. You describe the backlog, but you don't describe how it gets filled.
Right.
Well, we're huge fans of Kanban. It's a really good way to visualize that work. So I don't know that extension will go in it or not, but there's tons and tons of opportunity to continue to explore and grow, and we're far from done understanding, how to apply lean and agile thinking to building really big systems.
Okay. So organizations have been trying to cope with the enterprise thing. Anywhere where you can say, I was taught Scrum of Scrums and Scrum of Scrum of Scrum of Scrums, but at some point it just collapses, right?
It does. And the other thing, if you take that basic metaphor, I was taught Scrum of Scrum, so what does that mean? It means I can coordinate activity, but we don't allocate the authority to the Scrum Masters to figure out the strategy of the enterprise, right? I'm building a satellite, or I'm building a new CRM system. So it's not under the authority of the teams to determine strategy for the enterprise.
Right.
So it's under the authority of the enterprise to determine what the strategy is. So Scrum of Scrums is a great kind of operating model, and we use that, but you can't, that doesn't replace the real governance of content of what gets built.
Yeah.
So the teams themselves, they're the people that know how to build great systems, but somebody has to decide we're going to put up a satellite, or somebody has to decide we're building a new CRM system.
And somebody's got to make sure that the projects are in alignment with the company strategy
Absolutely.
as well.
Right. Absolutely. Your program portfolio needs to respond to the company's strategy.
Yeah.
So a pure kind of bottom-up view is great for empowering and contributing, but you can't just add up the opinion of 500 people and decide what to build. Right. You may be moving into a different market, and maybe some of those people don't even want to be in that market.
Yeah.
But that's the enterprise's call. Okay. That's for the company to decide what they're building.
So for a company that is, got their feet wet with Agile or been going through transformation, and finding that they really do need a bigger version.
Yep.
What's the process they go through?
So we describe it as a real simple strategy that's hard to execute. We call it we call it 1, 2, 3. First of all, people have to know the new way of working, and the framework is deep and broad, and it's based upon Agile and Lean. So we teach that. So we train what we call SAFe program consultants, SPCs. There are many here today. There's about 12 or 1,300 now that are in the marketplace, and they've learned the framework. They then do the implementation work because they're the change agents. Now they're tooled. And they teach leaders and managers. There's a 2-day course we call Leading the Lean Agile Enterprise.
Right.
And that gets the managers started on their journey, which is mostly a mindset and cultural change in support of the teams. And then those SPCs also train the teams. We do that generally at what we call the program or the release train level. Okay. So the adoption of SAFe is typically it's not a big bang or a little bang, it's a medium bang. It's one program at a time. And then, maybe 18 months later, there's 18 release trains running in parallel and cooperating at the portfolio level.
Okay, can you explain release train real quick?
It's a team of teams that are dedicated to a single mission. No team can be on more than one train. And it's led by whoever the content authority is. It could be a chief engineer if you're building a satellite, or a product owner, or a chief product owner, more likely a product manager if you're an independent software vendor. So let's just take the ISV case. The product manager sets the course of direction. The teams work and collaborate to deliver. They're facilitated by a release train engineer, which is essentially the super scrum master for the train, kind of the chief scrum master. And they work in perpetuity. In other words, it's not a project. It's not a single feat. It's a long life stream of value. Okay. And when we recognize that you're in the business of delivering value, even IT shops have value streams. You identify those. You get out of the kind of the project mentality, and you don't just do a cost center account and add 4 people and then pull them back. You say, well, we're going to be in that business. Maybe we're in the banking business. And I talk to somebody that's they're working in promotions. Well, they're never not going to be doing promotions. Right. So we shouldn't be going to the IT pool with a pot of money and say, send me some people for a while.
Send me 3 bodies for
and then I'll send them back. It doesn't make sense. So a value stream in the banking industry around promotions would make great sense. So a release train would implement a value stream. We'd have a group of 100 people or 150 dedicated to that one thing. Okay. And then they become long-lived. They get additional domain knowledge. Their knowledge grows, kind of exponentially over time, and they have the collective ownership and collective knowledge of a large group of people that really get whatever that is.
Do you think that, because the idea of keeping the team together, that's been around in Agile for a while, but a lot of companies, that's one of the biggest stumbling blocks. Like they're still focused on multitasking and shifting people around. And now, even at the portfolio level, I've seen stuff that says part of Agile portfolio management is making sure your resources are allocated as best as possible across all your projects, which may mean swapping people.
Right.
Is it easier with SAFe to be able to make the case for keeping them together longer?
It is, absolutely, because SAFe will initially take, and the SPC will do some analysis to say, where are the long life value streams? Okay. And you come to some startly conclusions that maybe you're doing mobile banking. Well, you're going to be doing that for a while, right? And mobile banking is going to catch individual banking. It's going to catch small to medium business. Eventually, it'll catch the enterprise. So you realize so banking is a complex function. Mobile banking is a type of banking, and until we've really achieved all that functionality through mobile, we're not going to rest. Right. So mobile banking is an example of where let's put a bunch of people together in a release train or a value stream that focuses solely on that. Right. And that's a pretty long life live thing. So
Yeah.
why would I send them back to the pool? They've just learned about mobile banking for individuals. Let's have them do the small
Take their
business
expertise
module
and throw it away
Absolutely.
and give them something new to do.
Put it back in the pool. So, and that again, we form long-lived Agile teams as well for the same reason.
Okay.
Let's let them work together and gain knowledge and get this kind of exponential value of a shared understanding of the work,
Right.
A shared gestalt whereby everybody can contribute. Innovation can come from any member of the team.
Right.
Shared responsibility for results, which is part of empowerment. You can't have empowerment without responsibility. We just need to scale that up.
Well, and the communication patterns as well. Because
Absolutely.
once they learn that sort of shorthand, it's not something you want to give up too easily. So what's up with SAFE 3? Or 3.0?
So SAFE 3 had. So we work at all three levels. At the team level, we felt it would be helpful to provide additional guidance on some current best practices in Agile development, and they include what we describe as test-first development, which includes TDD and ATDD, continuous integration, but system-level continuous integration, and then lastly, Agile architecture, because design emerges and intentionality helps. Okay. So we enhance that there. At the program level, we completely decoupled the development cadence from the release cadence. Okay. That was always the case in words, but the picture implied otherwise. Okay. So what was called a PSI is now simply a program increment. It's just accumulated a set of system increments, and made that change at the portfolio level. We completely revamped the design so that value streams are now first-class citizens. It's clear that the portfolio consists of value streams, and then the Kanban system, the Epic Kanban system that feeds that, which are your large portfolio initiatives, has been laid out in a sequential time-based fashion. So when you look at it, there's still kind of three levels, but they don't look the same. We also essentially collapsed the team and program level into a single tab, even though the levels are still there, because there is no handoff from a team to the program. The program is the teams, but our old picture just seemed to, there was white space in there that said, there's the team and the program, and people would look at that and say, so the teams develop stuff and they hand it off to the program. No, there's only a program, and the teams are in it. So pretty major revisions.
The picture's a really important part of SAFE, like
it's
the
huge
diagram that you guys have, and people's understanding it, right? So you've updated that as well?
We did, and that's always tricky. Because people don't want to see that change every day. Right. So you can talk about continuous delivery and immediate releases. The reality is, people depend on a certain amount of stability in their lives, and people train on the big picture, they deploy based upon the big picture, and they don't want to see that jumping around every week. Right. Now behind the scenes, we can add content and guidance, we can extend articles, we've architected for the ability for continuous delivery, but the big picture doesn't want to change that often. People get disconcerted.
They get used to it, right? It affects their, up in their cubicle.
It affects their training programs. You don't want to change the words, we changed PSI to PI. Tooling vendors that support it, they're not thrilled with that,
but you got to do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do, and SAFE will always be a work in process. We've not solved the problem of large-scale system development, and I don't expect that we will. I think the challenge will stay ahead of us. Our effort with SAFE is to focus exclusively on one thing, which is what are the known practices today, what are the patterns, and how to make Agile, which we know really unlocks the puzzle, right? In terms of motivation and job satisfaction. Absolutely. The reality is, the whole happy Nelly thing is kind of an interesting thing, and the truth of the matter is the happy employees do better work. And there's no downside to increased job satisfaction.
Well, there's less whip cracking, and if you like cracking a whip, that's kind of disappointing.
And what we've learned in Agile is that you have to lead, not manage. And SAFE is strong on that. And one of the additions in 3.0 is we add lean Agile leaders and have a specific call out for what their roles and responsibilities are and what the expectations are for them in an Agile enterprise. Before that, they were behind the scenes and we had articles, but now they're on the picture. Great. So if you want to know what the expectation is, click here.
All right there. All right. So if people want to learn more about Scaled Agile Framework, they go to
ScaledAgileFramework.com, and it's all there. Cool. None of it's hidden. No secret sauce.
And if they want to get certified, they need to take a class.
They do, and then go to Scaled Agile Academy. Right. Scaled Agile Academy, those classes are taught every month in some location around the world, sometimes a couple, 3 times a month.
Okay, cool. Thanks very much for coming by. It was great meeting you.